The Descent by Alma Katsu. Read by Laurel Lefkow. For my husband Bruce, thanks for keeping things from falling apart. Hell is empty and all the devils are here. William Shakespeare, The Tempest. Prologue. The dreams came almost every night. At first, I almost didn't take notice of them. When they started, Luke had been gone only a few months, and I was in that black fog that follows the death of a loved one. During the day, grief would fall on me suddenly. I'd look at the clock to find that an hour had passed, and yet I couldn't account for the time. Evenings were worse. I'd lie alone in the bed Luke and I had shared, waiting for the night to inch by. Evening meant long hours of insomnia, listlessness, fitful snatches of sleep, and the pale lavender gray of dawn coming too soon. The occasional nightmare could do little to impress me compared to that slow hell. I first realized I was having nightmares when bits would suddenly bob to the surface of my consciousness, a flash of pale pink flesh, soft ochre candlelight, a streak of crimson blood. It was only by the end of the 4th month, when I started to have something resembling rest again, that the nightmares bled through, and I couldn't fail to take notice of them then. What made them especially unsettling was that they were not about Luke, but about Jonathan. I hadn't thought about Jonathan in a long time, certainly not after Luke and I settled on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in that lovely cottage where we lived together for 4 years. It would have been logical for Luke to be the one haunting my subconscious, considering what we'd gone through at the end. His long, lingering illness, months shuttling him through rounds of treatments that all turned out to be for naught, weeks in the ICU, and the final stretch in the hospice, where he waited to die. That living nightmare had consumed my days for our last 9 months together, and I couldn't see any reason why it shouldn't consume my sleeping hours as well. I remember quite vividly the dream that made me realize something unusual was going on. It started up like the beginning of a movie I'd seen before, and sensing that I was about to have the same nightmare I'd by then been having nightly, I tried to wake myself up. But that never works in dreams, does it? No matter how hard you try, you can't make yourself wake up. Instead, it's like you're Houdini, trussed up in a straitjacket and chains, and submerged in a dread that's numbing and deadly, like ice-cold water. There's nothing you can do but struggle against the restraints, in the hope of freeing yourself, or just keep going until, by the mercy of God, you're released from the dream's stifling clutches. The dreams always took place somewhere that was both familiar and yet unknown to me, in the peculiar way that the subconscious works. Sometimes it was in a dark, shaggy forest that could almost be the great North Woods that had surrounded my childhood home of St. Andrew, but was not, or a crumbling castle that I might have visited during my never-ending travels, but had not, or a dilapidated mansion with broken plaster walls and ruined woodwork that could have been one of the houses I'd lived in during my long, circuitous life, but was not. Strangely familiar, familiarly strange, these settings that tried to embrace me and push me away at the same time. The dream that struck me as too strange to be simply the normal functioning of the unconscious mind started abruptly in a new setting, a dark, narrow passage whose walls were made of huge stone blocks. Those walls gave the impression that I was in a solidly made old fortress. From the cold dampness of the stone and the tang of mildew in the air, I assumed the passage was underground. It went on and on, turning and turning again, twisting in on itself like a maze. What's more, the passage was disconcertingly narrow. A normal-sized person wouldn't have been able to fit, and small as I am, I could barely squeeze through. I hurried along as quickly as I could, desperate to get out of the claustrophobic space. Finally, I came to a door. It seemed to be as broad as it was tall, and somewhat crudely made, its heavy wooden planks held together with metal.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?